See, I want to see how many I got wrong. So I got A. So we'll see what I did wrong. All right, ready. All right, welcome. So here we go in my practice EOC for pre-calculus. All right, so the first one we're going to do, what is the inverse? So therefore, we're going to swap this. Swap this with y. And then we can go ahead and swap the variables. So therefore, I have x equals y plus 4 squared. Now here, we're just going to use our inverse operations, right? So we are going to take the square root of both sides. And therefore, we'd have plus or minus the square root of x equals y plus 4. And then you subtract 4, subtract 4. So y or f inverse here, just make sure you have to introduce that plus or minus. So f inverse is going to be a plus or minus the square root of x minus 4, which is not a function. So it's not an invertible function, but that would be the inverse in that case. So it'd be c. The next one, which is function. So this would be the function, but it would have to have a domain restriction. We'd have to have domain restriction up here, which we don't. So therefore, that's the answer, which is not a function. Question number 2, which function has the fewest domain restrictions? Okay, well, this one, x cannot equal 1. This one, x cannot equal -1. This one, x cannot equal plus or minus 1. And this one is true for all real numbers, right? X cannot equal I, right? So D is going to be our answer. This is true for all real numbers. So there's no domain restrictions there. Let f of x equals x plus 2 and g of x equals x squared. What is f of g of 2? So remember, this is f of -5. So we plug in -5 in for f of x. So therefore, that's -5 plus 2. That equals -3. And therefore, then we'll plug that into that equation. That will give us 9. So that one looks all good, 9. All right. What is the vertex of the graph of the equation? So we could do b divided by 2 squared and then plug it in. Or we could also look into using completing the square. I'm just going to go through the completing the square method. So if I factor that out, I get an x squared plus 2x plus 1. And therefore, I get a 3. So that's going to be x squared plus 2x plus 1. Right, as you complete the square, plus 1, but then you have to add 1, so you have to subtract a 1 and then times 3. All right, so that's going to give me a 3 times x plus 1, and therefore what, minus 2? So therefore I get a -1 minus 2. There you go, so 4 is A. And I am just kind of checking, seeing what I did in my key previously to see if I made any mistakes or if I need to revisit it. Which of these is the root? Okay, so one thing we can do is look into factoring these. So it looks like this is factorable, right? So yeah, I can factor out a, oops, not gonna look like that. So in this case, I can factor out a x squared times x minus 3. And then here, I can factor out a 4 times a x minus 3. I can factor out the x minus 3 times a x squared minus 4. So x minus 3 times a x minus 2 times a x plus 2. Which of these is a root? So we have 3. -2 and +2, so that doesn't work from there. So therefore, it looks like 3 is going to be my only answer, which I guess I could have verified from there, right? Could have stopped growing factoring. If x minus 4 is a factor, then what is the value of k? So in this case, if it's a factor, then that means my remainder has to be 0. So therefore, I have 2, -11, and k. All right, so bring down the 2. 2 times 4 is 8. -3, that becomes a -12. So what minus -12 is going to give me 0? That's going to be a +12, which is B. Write a third-degree polynomial function that would have the given zeros. Okay, so if we have the 2i, then we have to have -2i, which is our conjugate. So I have x minus 3 times x minus 2i times x plus 2i. X minus 3, hopefully you can multiply these out. X squared, let's see, that's going to be plus 4. And then I know my last answer is going to be -12. So the only answer that would give me -12 is this one, right? Because if you just do distributed property, you're going to get a -12. So we'll cancel that here. We can figure out that answer rather quickly without doing all the work. All right, page number 1. Done. Next one is simplify to our lowest terms. Let me move that up. Okay, so in this one, looks like we can factor some things out, right? We can factor out a 3 in the top. So if I factor out a 3, I get a 2x squared plus a 7x plus 3. And then here, I can factor difference of 2 squares. So that's a 2x minus 1 times a 2x plus 1. Now, guys, if I need to factor this out, right, something's divided out. It's going to be one of these, quotients. Now, if my middle term is positive and my last term is positive, then I know it has to be 2x plus 1. It can't be this one, okay? So 2x minus 1 has to be my denominator. So I'm going to be looking at these two answers. So let's see here. So we can do 3 times 2x plus 1. Now, what would I need to multiply by that? Looks like I would have to do a 2x plus 3. And therefore, this is a 2x minus 1 and 2x. Oops. 2x plus 1. Right, let's just double check. That doesn't work. That's x. Jeez, come on, Mr. McLogan. Ah, no, not that. That's an x plus 3, right? Because this needs to give me a 2x squared. This needs to give me a 3. Okay, let's just make sure that becomes 6. That's 1x. That's 7x. Good. So what happens when these divide out? I'm left with a 3 times x plus 3 divided by 2x minus 1. Looks like that was the answer. There you go. So x plus 3. Yep, cool. What are the vertical and horizontal asymptotes? So if you want to make sure you rearrange this, so therefore it's x squared minus 9 divided by x squared negative x squared plus 16. So my horizontal asymptote is the y equals negative 1. And the only one I see with y equals negative 1 is right here. I think you guys can agree if you factor out that negative, then you get a negative x plus 16, which is x equals plus or minus 4 if you were to set that equal to 0. Which I kind of ran out of space on, but I kind of feel like I need to show that. So I'm going to move this. There you go. But if you did set that equal to 0, you would get those values. But we don't really need to do this. I already see this, so I'm just going to go with A. What is the solution set to the rational equation? I remember this one was not very fun. Or it was. I don't remember. Okay. So let's simplify the denominator. So I have 2 times x minus 1. All right, so I have a 2x and I have a 4. All right, so let's find my LCD. So my LCD needs to something that needs to divide into all of them. I have my highest number is 4, so I got to have that. I got to have an x, right? And I have to have the quantity x minus 1. Okay, so I'm going to multiply my LCD, cross that out, times all of these. We'll just keep the 2x there. So everything needs to be multiplied by a, 4x. 4x times x minus 1. Okay. Whew. So let's see here. When I do that, my 2's divide out. So that's going to give me a 2. And my x minus 1's divide out. So that leaves me with a 2x times 5 equals over here. Oh, not equals. What am I doing? That becomes a minus. My 2x, so that's going to leave me with a 9 times 2 times x minus 1. And then equals, here the 4 will divide out, and then that's going to leave me with a, man, I'm running out of space. Let's shrink that thing. Let's see, that's going to be a 4 will divide out, so that's going to leave me with a negative 1 times a x times x minus 1. Whew. All right, so let's go ahead and simplify. That's a multiply. All right, so therefore this becomes a let's see that. So therefore, this is a 10x. Apologize my work. I'm not trying to do the most mathematical work. I'm just trying to figure this out. So this is a negative 18 x, and this would be a positive 18. And this becomes a, did I already have the x squared? X squared. Where's my x? Why did it? No, that must have been my mistake. I redid that. Yeah, okay. And therefore, in this one is, that becomes a negative x squared, and therefore, then this becomes a positive x. Whew. All right, so let's get everything to this side. So what I'm going to have is x squared is equal to, this combines, right? So this is going to become a negative 8, and if I subtract the x here, that'd be a, oops, what am I doing? So x squared. And so if I subtract the x, so 10x minus 18x is negative 8x, minus 9 is negative 9x. And then, so I added the x squared to the other side. And then what's plus 18? Okay, so now I got to factor this. And what two numbers multiply to give me 18, add to give me negative 9? That's going to be a x minus 3 times a x minus 6. Okay, so that has to be two solutions, and it's going to be positive 3 and positive 6, because you set those equal to 0 and you solve for there. There you go. All right. No, I am not reading the chat. I am working through the, well, I am reading the chat a little bit. Check in, but I'll be going through content answers for you guys a second. So 4 divided by x plus 3 divided by 1 over x plus 1. So, all right, so again, another LCD. So LCD equals, let's see, that's going to be over 1. So that's going to be x times x plus 3. Okay, so again, we got to multiply everything times that. So we have x times x plus 3. All right, so those will divide out. Oh, what am I doing? Don't do that. I don't want to confuse you. All right, so if I multiply this times the numerator, I'm going to be left with a 4x. All right, if I multiply this by the denominator, I'm going to be left with a 1 times x plus 3. You don't really need to write the 1 times there. I'm just doing it for accounting reasons. And then here, you're going to have a plus a 3 times x times a x plus 3. Don't do that. All right. So I need to have 4x in my numerator. All right. And then my denominator here, let's see what that works out to be. So 4x all over, let's see, this is going to be x plus 3. This is a what? Plus a 3x squared plus 9x. All right. So if we were to simplify that a little bit more, we get a 3x squared plus 10x plus 3, right? And that's over 4x. So that looks like answer C. Oh, I forgot to check my answers. 3, 6, yep, and B. Was that answer? Yep, okay, cool. All right, number 12. Which of the following of the equation of the secant function with a period of 6 pi and a vertical translation of up to? So again, we have to have up to, so it's not that one. A period for secant is 2 pi. So basically 2 pi divided by b equals 6 pi. Right? So basically what we want to do is be able to see then what is my b. So my b in this case is if I was to multiply by b on both sides, then I would get a 2 pi is equal to 6 pi times b. Then divide by 6 pi, divide by 6 pi, and that is going to reduce, so b is equal to 1/3. Okay, so where's the only one where b is equal to 1/3? Well, this is secant of 1/3 times x. It's the same thing, right? 1/3 times x is just x over 3. So therefore, it's answer B. Question number 13. This is a unit circle problem. So again, knowing the unit circle very, very well, hopefully at least these coordinate points here. So we have sine of 90 degrees. Okay, that's 1. Cosine of 180, that's going to be -1. I'm going to use parentheses to represent my things. And then minus 5 times tangent of 360. Well, that's going to be 1, 0. Tangent is y over x, so that's going to be times 0. So really, this is 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1, which is answer A. All right, we're looking pretty good. Almost halfway, guys. All right, question number 14. Which of the following describes the measures of all angles that are coterminal? Okay, so coterminal are going to be angles that are plus or minus 2 pi, right? So if we have pi over 8, all we're going to do is add 2 pi, 2 pi n. So plus or minus, sorry. But again, assume n is any integer, so n can be, oh yeah, it's just going to be, as long as n represents any integer, that's fine. You don't need to do plus or minus, because n can be positive or negative, so the answer is C. Sine graph, find the amplitude. So the amplitude is the absolute value of A, so that's going to be, so amplitude is absolute value of -3. So the only one that has an amplitude of 3 is this one. And period is 2 pi divided by 1, which great because your b is 2 pi divided by b, which in this case it's 1, so that works. Number 16, choose the value of the trigonometric function cosine of theta using the information. So we have sine of theta equals 1/4, and thankfully this one's in the first quadrant. So guys, remember sine of theta. Sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse, right? And sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. So therefore, this is going to be the square root of 24 if you do a little Pythagorean theorem. And what are we trying to figure out again? Choose the value of the trigonometric function cosine. Oh, we're trying to find cosine. So cosine is going to be square root of 24 over 5, which would be answer C. I forgot to move those out. That's not it. There you go. Okay. Find the equivalent expression for cotangent squared of theta. Okay, so cotangent squared of theta, using your Pythagorean identities, that's cosecant squared of theta. And now we got to be able to figure out which one of these is going to give us cosecant squared of theta. So cotangent is sine over cosine, and this is over cosine. So again, what I'm looking for is something that's going to divide out, right? Which is really the same thing as 1 over sine squared. Okay, so what I'm going to do is look at these and see what divides something out. So this is sine over cosine times 1 over cosine. Nothing's going to divide out to give me sine, right? So it's not A. Let's do B. Sine over cosine times sine. Nothing's going to divide out. I need sine in the denominator, right? That doesn't work. C. Sine over cosine times 1 over cosine. Again, I need sine in the denominator. That doesn't work. Tangent. Sine over cosine times 1 over sine. Well, that works, but the cosine doesn't get out, so that's not it. So I think process of elimination, cosine over sine times 1 over cosine. And you can see here, that gives me my 1 over sine, so that works. So a very non-mathematical way to kind of think through that problem. Well, not mathematical, but not mathematically correct. I'm just doing it for testing purposes. All right. Number 18, find the exact value of the expression. So in this one, this looks like the double angle formula. No, not the double. The sum formula for cosine. So this would be the cosine of 40 degrees plus 20 degrees, right? Okay, so that's really the cosine of 60 degrees, which cosine of 60 degrees using your unit circle, that should equal 1/2. So that's answer B. Number 19. All right, guys, we are halfway through the exam. All right, making some decent time too. So find all the solutions of the equation. So the first thing you want to do is isolate the cosine function. So cosine of x equals, all right, we're going to subtract, right? And then we'll divide by 2. So therefore we get negative square root of 2 divided by 2. All right, and then looking at the unit circle here, that's going to be that angle and that angle, right? Cosine is negative in the second and third quadrant, and then you have to keep on adding 2 pi to those, okay? So these two angles is 3 pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4, but you need to add 2 pi, not pi. So 3 pi over 4 and 5 pi over 4 plus 2 pi n, so that one. And then, yeah, all right, we're looking pretty good. Number 20, sine of theta equals negative 4/5. Cotangent of theta is less than 0. Find the double angle for cosine. Okay, so again, we got to draw it. So sine is negative, so it's either in the third or the fourth quadrant. Cotangent is negative, so cotangent is negative in the fourth quadrant and second quadrant. So it has to be this one. So therefore, this is a negative 4 over 5. Using a Pythagorean triple, I know that's going to be 3. I'll put parentheses because I figured it out. And then we got to remember the double angle formula. So if I remember correctly, cosine of 2 theta equals cosine squared of theta minus sine squared of theta. Okay, so cosine squared is 3/5 squared minus sine squared, which is a negative 4/5. All right, so that's 9/25 minus, this is going to be squared, so this would be a 16/5, which is a negative 7/25, which is D, which I believe I got correct. Hopefully I did. Yeah, I got the same answer. Okay, cool. The next one is find the quantity of vectors. So we're going to find the magnitude of the sum of these vectors. So the magnitude, remember, is your first component squared plus your second component squared, and then the square root of that. So in this case, the first thing we want to do is add the 2 components. So therefore, we're just going to do 5 plus 3, and then 5 plus 3. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in component form. So we'll have the magnitude of 5 plus 3, comma, and then you add these components, so that's negative 7 plus 2. Okay, so when I get that, I get a 8, comma, let's see, 5. Okay, and if we want to find the magnitude here, then that's going to equal the square root of 64 plus 25, and that's going to be 89. Okay, so the square root of 89, which is going to be B. Number 22, it says, solve the problem. A pilot wants to fly on a bearing of 63.3 degrees. So again, we got to know what the bearing is, right? So the bearing is 63.3. So 63.3, this is 63.3, then this angle, I need to move that over. Remember, this is going to create a 90-degree angle, right? I'm actually going to use a little bit of this space. Okay. So therefore, this needs to be a 26.7. right? Because these two need to add up to 90 degrees. And so we have an angle. And then it says, so it's due east. So this is the triangle. It's going this way, right? Now we don't know what this is, right? We don't know what the speed is. The only thing we do know is that he has so he's going due east. By flying at a due east, he finds that a 50-mile-per-hour wind blowing from the south is pushing him up course to this angle, to this 26.7 degrees, right? Which is the bearing of 63.3. Find the airspeed of the airplane. Okay, so that's blowing at 51 miles per hour. Okay, now you could use this with vectors. I'm going to decide to use this with triangles because it's a little bit easier when recognizing this if you're just trying to find the length, because we know this angle is 26.7, right? And I just want to find this length here, which is going to be representing my speed, right? This is technically the speed, and then once the wind blows it, I have this new speed, an angle. So what is the speed going to be? So all we're going to do here is opposite of hypotenuse. So we'll say the sine of 26.7 equals 51 over v. So v equals 51 over the sine of 26.7. So 51 divided by the sine of 26.7. And v is equal to 113.5, which rounds to 114. The next one looks like I forgot to write the answer, so that's going to eliminate the parameter. So we want to eliminate the parameter. Typically, we want to eliminate the parameter. We want to solve for t in the x equation, then plug it into the y. So in this case, I'll subtract a 1 on both sides. So I get an x minus 1 equals a t cubed, and then I'll take the cube root of both sides. So then therefore I get t equals the cube root of x minus 1, and then I can plug that into my y equation. So y equals, let's see, the cube root of x minus 1, and then cubed minus 10. So that's just going to be y equals x minus 11. Which the only answer from there is going to be this answer, right? And then again, you can go ahead and check your constraints by plugging in your restrictions to make sure it works. They just provide the parameter here from that. But that's going to be your only answer that's possible, because that's how we eliminate the parameter. All right, number 24, it says the line of sight from a small boat to the top of a 35-foot building built on a cliff is 25 feet above water. Okay, so we have a triangle here. Okay, we got to create triangles. Okay. Got an angle of elevation, 25 with the water. To the nearest foot, how far is the boat? So we need to find distance. All right, so it looks like we just need to add these two up. It seems fairly basic from that case. So 25 degrees equals 25 plus 35, so that's going to be 60, and we just need to find d. So I could say tangent of 25 degrees is equal to 60 over d. Is it that easy? D equals, let's see, that's going to be 60 over tangent of 25. So 60 divided by tangent of 25. And d equals 128. There you go. Boom. And let's see, did I get that? Yeah, I did. All right, cool. Looks like everything else is working out. Next one is a scientist is spot on, has an angle of elevation, which is 25. Oh, I think this is my duplicate one. I need to change this one out, but that's okay. So it has an angle of elevation of 25.4. And to the top of the 23-foot building observatory, how far is the scientist from the base? Yeah. So it's saying this is 223. And saying how far is it away? Yeah, it's basically the exact same question. So therefore, this is going to be a tangent, d. So we can just set this up. If you could set up the equation if you wanted to, but it's the exact same as the last one. So actually, I figured this one out before. I was like, oh, I need to actually change this one out. So tangent of d, d equals your opposite, so 223, divided by the tangent of 25.4. Okay, so 223 divided by the tangent of 25.4. And that's 469.6, which is going to be B. All right, the polar coordinates of a given point are given. Find the polar points for 6 and 2. So, okay, so where is that? Well, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all right? These are going to be your rings. And there's my point here. All right, so I have 6. So it's going to be pi halves plus 2 pi n. Okay, so that can't be true. No, it's not going to be plus that. And then it has to be 6 plus 2 pi n. Okay, so it can't be that. So it has to be one of these two. Now my question is, what is it going to be for the negative? So it might be helpful to understand, like, you're going to have to distribute here. This is 2 pi n plus pi, right? So really what it's doing is it's taking this angle and it's adding pi to it. So if you have a negative, remember, that is like the reflection about the origin. So you have the negative, and then what you're going to do is you're going to add pi to it and then reflect it 2 pi. So therefore, that is going to be your answer. This would not work because if you just did negative 6 plus 2 pi n, then you'd be going down here. And we don't want to go down here. We need to reflect it, right? So the pi halves, once you do pi halves negative 6, that takes you down there. So what you want to do is you want to add pi to it, which would take you up here, and then do 2 pi. It's kind of always a confusing one. This is definitely a more confusing portion of that, but the answer is D. All right, next one is given a triangle with a equals 19, a equals 43, b equals 26. What is the length of C? All right, so it looks like this is a oblique triangle. So let's draw an equation here to understand it. So we have 19. What am I doing? Label your triangle. So A, so that's 43. We have 19. And then I could say, let's call this B. And this is 26, so it's not the ambiguous case. Good thing. I don't want to make a mistake trying to do math in my head when I've already done so many problems. So I'm just going to subtract these using my calculator. So that's 111. Okay, so basically I need to use what am I trying to do again? I am trying to find what is the length of C. So that'd be C. So yeah, I'm looking for little c. So I'm going to use the law of sines. So, oh, thank you, Riley. I very much appreciate that. I got to stop the video and greatly thank you. So thank you so much for that super chat. I greatly appreciate it. It might be weird for people watching the replay or watching, my exam once it's like all edited, but still, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You'll always forever live on here because I won't edit that out. All right, so I can set up an equation. So 19 over the sine of 43 degrees is equal to C over sine of 111. Okay. And so therefore, let's see here. C is equal to a 19 times the sine of 111 divided by the sine of 43 degrees. All right, so let's just plug and chug. So 19 times the sine of 111 divided by the sine of 43. And I get 26.008, so that's going to be C. The next one is solve a triangle with the given parts. I think this one's like the same thing. It's like, if we just solve for y, or I'm sorry, gamma here, then we should be good. So again, I think I need to change these problems out. So this is 26 minus 51. That's 103. Okay. So gamma is 103. Yeah, we already knew that. Oh, I'm sorry, not gamma, but I almost thought for A. Yeah, so we already know that gamma is 103. So that one's not it. But we need to solve for A, which they think they. So let's go and solve for A. All right, so I can say A over 26 degrees is equal to. Sorry, that's the sine of 26 degrees. That's going to equal 26 over the sine of 103 degrees. What am I looking for? I'm looking for A. Oh, that looked like a 9. I was like, what am I doing? I'm starting to slow down, guys. Okay, so A is equal to, again, you're just going to multiply. So therefore, multiply the sine of 26 on both sides. So we'll have 26 times the sine of 26 divided by the sine of 103. And I get 11.69, which would be 11.7, which would be my answer D. Let's just verify I am getting these same answers, which I did. Okay, cool. All right, number 29. Find the focus and the directrix of the parabola with the given equation. So we don't want when we're looking in conic section form, we don't want this to be with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by a negative 20 on both sides. Okay, so I'll have a x squared equals a negative 20y. All right, so now given that information, I can say that negative 20 equals 4p. So P is equal to a negative 5. We also know that the parabola is going to open down because it's an x squared, so it opens up or down, but y is negative. Has a vertex at 0, 0. My focus should be 0, negative 5, right? And my directrix should be a horizontal line, y equals negative 5. So can't be those. So y equals positive 5. There's my focus. There's my directrix. So D is the answer. Write the equation of the circle with a center of 3, 4. So that's my H, that's my K. So that's x minus. I was doing with my geometry students today. So that's x plus 3 quantity squared. So I'm looking for that. So that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And then remember, it's 2.5 squared. Well, 2.5 times 2.5 is squared is not, right? It's r squared. Okay, so you got to square 2.5. So my only two options are here. I'm just going to figure that one has to work, and that's y plus 4, right? That works. Okay, cool. All right, last set, guys. Number 31 says, find the standard form of the equation of the ellipse. Okay, so let's group these. So 2x squared plus 24x plus 8y squared minus 64y. And then let's get this 16 to the other side. So factor out the 2. X squared plus 12x. Factor out the 8. Y squared minus 8y equals negative 16. Okay. Let's see. 2 times x squared plus 6x plus 36. Plus, I don't know why I'm doing all this. 8 times y squared minus 8y plus 16. I'm completing the square. FYI, for those of you that are following along, you have to add 36 to the other side times 2. So that's going to be plus a, 72? And then over here, you're going to add 16. That's going to be times 8. 8 times 10 is 80. 6 is 48. So that's going to be 128. If I'm doing my math correctly. And therefore, this is going to be a x plus, oh, I didn't do my math correctly. That's a 9. Dang it. That's a plus 9 when you complete the square. So that's going to be plus 18. Okay, and then this one, that negative 4, that's 4, so that one's right. So this is going to be x plus 3 quantity squared plus a 8 times y minus 4 quantity squared. Okay, so plus, uh-oh. That's not right. What did I do wrong? Did I factor out the 2? Or if I forget to factor out the 2? Oh, wait, I did. Shoot. Okay. Do your accounting. So 2, oh, that's 12. Okay, so I did have that right. Crap. Come on, stupid things. All right, so that was x plus 2. So 12 divided by 2 is going to be, so that was 12x is 6. That is plus 36. Okay, so I did have that right. So that's plus 72. All right, so that's wrong. So that is x plus 6. Okay, and that's going to be plus 8. And then this was, what did I say, 128, I believe? Okay. Okay, so we have an x plus 6, so we need that. Well, and y minus 4. There you go, guys. Unless I did something wrong, that's the only one that would make sense. Now, if you want to verify, we can just go ahead and simplify this, and you can divide on both sides. But again, like, look at doom, doom, we're good, right? There's nothing else that would even work with those two. And again, this is going to be 23, right? So what does this answer end up? I just want to double check this. So 128 plus 72, minus 16. That's 184. I don't remember getting 184. Did I get 184? I don't remember seeing 184. That's plus 16. That's 128. All right, and then 8 over 184. Yeah, okay, it was right. So that equals 184. And then, yeah, when you go ahead and divide, you get square to 23, and that would work. Okay, cool. That does work. Question number 32, classify the conic section. So parabola, circle, or ellipse. So I just see my a squared and my b squared. So 2 times 5 is going to be 10. So that equals an ellipse. Question number 33. Find the center and foci of the hyperbola. Okay, so find the center. So that's going to be -2, -1. All right, so -2, -1, -2, -1. All right, so everything else is out except for these two. Now, this is my a squared and this is my b squared. Now, remember, for a hyperbola, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Okay, so that's going to equal what? 49. So c equals 7, right? Because you got to take the square root of 49. So this is a vertical parabola. So from here, I'm going to go up 7 and down 7. So that should be, -7 and 5. So which one of these has a -7 and 5? Or -9. Sorry, not -7. Add 7. Subtract 7, you get -9. So this one works. Let me check my other answers real quick just to make sure I got the same answers. Yeah, I got B. Okay, cool. And yep, got those. All right, we're on the last page, guys. This was supposed to be equal to 0. I made a mistake there. So change that in there. So the next one is evaluate or determine the limit that does not exist for each of the limits. So we have a piecewise function. Okay. And we have d is equal to 0. And that's the limit we're going to approach. Okay. So as we're approaching 0 from the left, right? So you can basically just like replace these. I don't know why we even why I even had that. So what is as 0 approaches from the left? So if you were to look at this graph, say what is going on? So we have x squared minus 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be open circle. That's going to be looks not like that. It's going to look like that. And then at 3 is x is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can see from the left and from the right. So from the left, the graph is approaching -4. So from the left, we're looking at -4. That's good, right? So can't be these two. From the right, it looks like it's approaching 3. Could be these two. But the general limit, obviously these do not connect, so it does not exist. So the answer is A. Question number 35. The limit as x approaches 2. Well, you plug in 2. That's no problem with the denominator, right? And when you plug in the numerator, you're going to get 0, right? But in this case, you get 4 plus 4, which is 0 over 8. But again, who cares? 0 over 8 is perfectly fine. That's going to be 0. And then last but not least is 36. And we actually didn't really cover that this much in this year. So I actually probably would have changed this on my students because last year we talked about looking at tangent and stuff like that. But I did allow my students to use calculators and I did advise them to, when you don't understand, we didn't get very much in the limits as I would in say like calculus. But what you'd want to do in this case is look at either the limit properties or look into the graph or even plugging in some numbers, which I did talk with this class. So even though it was more of a challenging problem because we didn't really practice many with these, I did kind of give them the tools to figure out this problem, which if you were to look at the graph or to plug in some values, then you could be able to figure out the answer is D, pi. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you benefited and did well on this exam. I look forward to seeing you soon. I don't know why I said that soon, but there you go. So, all right, cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining in on that. I hope if you are taking a pre-calculus exam,